In kind of like going back and forth of whether I would make a video about this topic, I thought, does this topic have universal appeal, or is it just the people who email me all the time and ask me about this question? Because I get asked this question a ton. And the question is this, Father Mike, how do I become a speaker? I mean, you may say Catholic speaker, whatever. How do I become a speaker? Hi, my name is Father Mike Schmitz, and this is Ascension Presents. Sometimes I go to places and I give a talk, and they say, oh, you're a speaker. How do you do that? The very short answer to that question is someone asked, and I said yes. That's it. If you want to ask the question of how do you become a Catholic speaker, the 2 steps: get baptized, start talking. That's the heart of the whole thing, which is, again, I have to say, someone asked, I said, sure. Hey, would you come talk to our youth group? Sure, great, no problem. Hey, would you come and speak at our group of Council of Catholic Women? Sure, no problem, whatever. There's 5 people here. I'd like you to talk to them. Great, no problem. That's how it is. For me personally, how it happened was I was ordained a priest, and so you preach, right, as a priest. And so I just kind of did as much as I could to get as best as I could, as good as I could. Anyways, to improve. And at one point I was at a conference and someone said, hey, we don't have a priest for Mass tomorrow. Would you mind preaching the homily? I said, sure, great, no problem. So I had done that, and then they said, hey, would you come back next summer for another conference? Officially, not just kind of last minute. Sure, no problem. Meanwhile, doing the ministry I had to do in the first place, which was to serve the people at that point of Hibbing, Minnesota, in a small parish up there. And that's kind of how it just went. It went from that to that to that, because someone asked and I simply said yes. There's a little bit of an issue, though, that I have whenever anyone asks, how do you become a speaker? They're looking at it. Here's what I think. I think sometimes we look at this, we see someone on a stage, and we think, that's it. That is something I want to do, which is not a bad thing. I mean, how many of us watch the sport of our choice or the musical endeavor of our choice and say, oh my gosh, that is it. That's what I want to do. That's okay. It's not a bad desire. To want to talk to people about Jesus is a very good desire. But it's also something that I invite people to pump the brakes a little bit and ask themselves a couple questions and look at this in a couple different ways. One of the ways is, am I convinced that the world will be won for Christ from a stage? Or am I convinced that the world will be won for Christ through relationships? Because I can guarantee you that if you look at the world changers, if you look at the people who have dramatically won the world for Christ, there are people like Billy Graham, right, who preach to millions upon millions, and people like John Paul II, who preach to millions upon millions of people. And yes, they did incredible work, right? They brought the gospel of Jesus Christ to so many people. But if you look at the world changers, they're the ones who often lived in obscurity. If you're looking at the ones who made saints, they're the ones, they rarely, how to say this, saints aren't made from a stage. People aren't necessarily won to Christ necessarily from a stage with a microphone in hand. I'd say this, that Jesus Christ will redeem this world through, not necessarily through a stage, but through family and through friendships. That's through relationships. I believe that Christ will continue to redeem this world, not through a stage, but through family and through friendships. And there's a danger for us if we want to stay on a stage. A danger, even making these videos, there's a danger here where I can think that this is ministry. Now, I can't tell you how many times I will go to a parish or go to a diocesan event or go to wherever, and someone says, hey, listen, I teach whatever grade, or I'm a youth minister in this area, or I volunteer in my parish, and we show your videos all the time, and they're really helpful. And that's awesome. That's an encouragement for me to keep doing this kind of thing. But whenever I hear that, what I hear is, I teach in a Catholic school. I hear, I work in a parish. What I hear is I volunteer in a parish. And when I get to sit here in this room and I get to press record and talk and then hit stop and then upload this video, and that's it. But here's this teacher, here's this youth minister, here's this director of religious education, here's this volunteer who's doing the messy work of relationship. See, that's where the world gets changed. That's where hearts get changed, in the messiness of relationship. I mean, as I said, there's a danger with being a speaker. I remember hearing someone who organizes a lot of speakers, and he said, I know some people who they would literally fly across the country to speak to 3,000 teens about Jesus, but they wouldn't walk across the street to talk with one teen about Jesus. And that is devastating. To be the kind of person who, I'm willing to fly across the country to talk to 1,000 people. Another way to say it, I'm willing to fly 1,000 miles to talk to 1,000 people, but I'm not willing to cross one street to talk to one person. See, I truly believe this, that hopefully this is a resource that's helpful for you all. Hopefully when you go to a conference and there's someone on stage giving a talk, that hopefully that talk is transforming minds and feeding hearts, and that's hopefully really, really good. But I've discovered so many times that going to the conference cannot be the end, it has to be the beginning. Or has to be it's the next step. And who is there to help people, teens, adults, doesn't matter, take the next step? It's the people who are in their lives. It's their friends, it's their families. It's those people who have dedicated their lives not only to the Lord, but also to be in the messiness of relationship. I mean, you think about, the world changes again, let's go back to this. But think of Mother Teresa, another famous example. People would love to hear her speak, not because she was an incredible speaker, but because she dedicated her life not to be a speaker, she dedicated her life to serve. She dedicated her life to giving. She dedicated her life to the messiness of the most broken people that our society has to offer. And I think that's going to be true for anyone who aspires to be someone on a stage, who aspires to preach well, who aspires to speak well. I think we can only truly do that for longer than a season if we're rooted in the messiness of relationships, if we're rooted in community, if we're rooted as someone that says, this isn't my primary work. My primary work is not to stand on a stage. My primary work is to get involved in people's lives. So if you're someone who says, how do I become a speaker? I would say, well, if anyone asks, say yes. Then practice as much as you can. But above all, be in relationship. Be in relationship with Jesus, first of all, right? I finally mentioned that now. And secondly, be rooted in the relationships in your parish, in your families, in your life. Because it would be devastating to end up with the kind of heart that would be willing to go 1,000 miles to talk to 1,000 people, but not willing to cross one street to talk to one person about Jesus. That's what I think. Anyways, whatever, let me know what you think. Write it in the comments. Like, subscribe, share. It feeds the algorithm. That helps out, From all of us here at Ascension Presents, my name is Father Mike. God bless. Oof.